You will own nothing, and you will be happy. Does this phrase sound familiar to you? If this is the first time that you've heard this, I urge you to watch this video till the end, because what I am about to uncover is some very important information that does apply to you. It applies to all of us. If you have already seen this catchphrase bandied about on YouTube, or maybe you've seen it in an article, you may already be familiar with an organisation called the World Economic Forum. Now, I know that a lot of my subscribers probably have quite a lot of knowledge about the World Economic Forum, what their goals are, and how much of a huge role that they are playing in everything that is going on in the world right now. However, it has come to my attention that unless you're actually looking for this information, most people aren't actually aware of who the World Economic Forum are and why it's such an important thing to know about. So in this video, what I'm going to do is present an undeniable, clear-cut explanation of who these people are, what they stand for, and most importantly, what their mission is. What would you do if I told you that one of the richest organisations in this world have goals to lead us all into a very dystopian looking future whereby everything is led by automation, people's jobs are replaced with AI, privacy is a thing of the past, and all of the citizens around the world are entrapped within a fully controlled system whereby every single action that they take is tracked? Not only is it tracked, but people are told what they can and can't spend their money on. And if they just so happen to do something that society doesn't approve of, all of their finances and amenities are cut off instantaneously. Now, to some people this might sound like an outlandish sci-fi horror movie. Some other people might say that this is just a conspiracy theory. But what I'm about to present to you has all come from the World Economic Forum's website. And another thing that I am going to show you is an article that was written by the World Economic Forum that literally outlines what their goals are for the future, aka your future. And by the end of this video, if you still think that these people are your friends, I would recommend that you do a bit more research. I just want to put out a disclaimer as well. I know a lot of people who are subbed to my channel are very, very awake. There's a lot of people that I see in the comments, and I know that you guys know a lot of this information, and there's loads of other YouTube channels that present so much information, but I wanted to do my own spin on this because a lot of the time this information can be so heavy, and the last thing I want to do is leave people feeling completely hopeless. So this video will end on a positive note, but first we've got to dive deep and face up to the reality of what is going on right now. Okay, so first things first. The phrase, "you will own nothing and you will be happy," is heavily associated with a thing called the Great Reset. The Great Reset is an openly talked about plan by the World Economic Forum whereby they outline all of the things that they want to do to change the problems that we're suffering in the world, and the Great Reset is their solution to the problems. When you go onto the World Economic Forum's website, there's a subheading called Our Mission. When you click onto this, it reads this paragraph. The World Economic Forum is the international organisation for public-private cooperation. The forum engages the foremost political, business, cultural and other leaders of society to shape global, regional and industry agendas. Key word there. Agendas. It was established in 1971 as a not-for-profit foundation and is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. It is independent, impartial, and not tied to any special interests. The forum strives in all its efforts to demonstrate entrepreneurship in the global public interest while upholding the highest standards of governance. Moral and intellectual integrity is at the heart of everything it does. Well, that sounds great, doesn't it? They're all about morals and integrity. Let's take a look at some of their members. So the head of the World Economic Forum is a guy called Klaus Schwab.
Evil, actually. Dr. Evil.
Other people who are heavily associated with the World Economic Forum are people like Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci, even Leonardo DiCaprio. In fact, when you go onto the World Economic Forum's partner section, there is actually a section that goes from A to Z, and to save you the effort, let me just put it here now. Every single big company that you could possibly think of is associated with the World Economic Forum. Most celebrities have got some form of association with this organisation, and if they haven't, maybe they haven't been in the media much lately, maybe they're not getting a lot of work. Some, if not all, of the richest people on this planet are part of this organisation, and yes, every single world leader is partnered with them as well. Even the ones that you think aren't really friends. But it's lovely to see that they can all put their differences aside, come together, and work harmoniously towards the same goals. So what are those goals? Luckily, Forbes wrote an article in 2016 that beautifully outlines what the World Economic Forum's goals are for the future, for your future. And just in case anybody's wondering, this article is fully approved by the World Economic Forum. So let's take a look. The title of the article reads, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say, our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes." It might seem odd to you, but it makes perfect sense for us in this city. Everything you considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all of the things we need in our daily lives. One by one, all these things became free, so it ended up not making sense for us to own much. First, communication became digitised and free to everyone. Then, when clean energy became free, things started to move quickly. Transportation dropped dramatically in price. It made no sense for us to own cars anymore, because we could call a driverless vehicle or a flying car for longer journeys within minutes. We started transporting ourselves in a much more organised and coordinated way when public transport became easier, quicker, and more convenient than a car. Now I can hardly believe that we accepted congestion and traffic jams, not to mention the air pollution from combustion engines. What were we thinking? Yeah, what are we thinking? It's funny how it's becoming more and more difficult for young people to buy their first home, and also how the inflation seems to be going up so high right now that people who already have mortgages are having to remortgage their homes. It's funny how fuel prices seem to be going through the roof, and people are charged so much tax for their vehicles nowadays. Anyway, let's carry on reading. Sometimes I use my bike when I go to see some of my friends. I enjoy the exercise and the ride. It kind of gets the soul to come along on the journey. That's a bit of a weird sentence. Gets the soul to come along to the journey. What, is your soul not there all the time? Funny how some things never seem to lose their excitement. What? Who wrote this? Okay, now we're getting into the juicy stuff. In our city, we don't pay any rent because someone else is using our free space whenever we do not need it. My living room is used for business meetings when I'm not there. Would you be comfortable with that? Having your home as an open space for strangers to just waltz in, having no place to call home, knowing that the roof above your head could just be taken from you at any given moment. It reads on, shopping? I can't really remember what that is. For most of us, it has been turned into choosing things to use. Sometimes I find this fun, and sometimes I just want the algorithm to do it for me. It knows my taste better than I do by now. When AI and robots took over so much of our work, we suddenly had time to eat well, sleep well, and spend time with other people. The concept of rush hour makes no sense anymore, since the work that we do can be done at any time. I don't really know if I would call it work anymore. It's more like thinking time, creation time, and development time. You notice how they present you with something that's so outlandish, like the AI robots, and initially most people, even in this day and age, can't really process the idea that eventually there will be AI robots replacing everybody's work. For some people that's still like a sci-fi horror film kind of thing. So they present you with something that's so shocking, like, ooh. And then they very quickly present you with a Trojan horse, which is, you could have all of this time free to live your life. Because most of us have been living like slaves for so long, working all the hours that God sends just to pay for a roof over our heads. A lot of people don't have time to actually live their life and pursue their creativity. But in this article, it's saying, well, you could have that. And for a lot of people, that can blindsight them. It's like if you present someone with temptation of something that they want so badly, they're willing to sacrifice everything else and just kind of not pay attention to the red flags. Another thing to think about is, do you really think that the people who are running this show are looking out for your best interests? Do you think that they will pay you to do whatever you want? You won't have to work anymore. You'll just get a monthly allowance paid into your bank account and life will be butterflies and roses? No. Something seems fishy to me. But this end part of this article speaks volumes to me. So the last paragraph reads, my biggest concern is all the people who do not live in our city. Those we lost on the way. Those who decided it became too much. All this technology. Those who felt obsolete and useless when the robots and AI took over big parts of our jobs. Those who got upset with the political system and turned against it. They live different kind of lives outside of the city. Some have formed little self-supplying communities. Others just stayed in the empty and abandoned houses in small 19th century villages. Once in a while I get annoyed about the fact that I have no real privacy. Nowhere I can go and not be registered. I know that somewhere everything I do, think and dream of is recorded. I just hope that nobody will use it against me. The people that they're talking about that fled from the cities and live in the 19th century villages, that's me. I will not be participating in this. There's no way. And I'm sure that most of the people that are subscribed to my channel have exactly the same mindset. This is clearly, to me, a trap. And it even outlines it here in this article, clearly stating, I just hope no one uses it against me. The truth is that once you start digging into the ugly reality of corruption in this world, you start to realise that they do actually give us clues. In fact, they're not just clues. Sometimes they literally are spelling it out to people, but people almost want to stay in denial and they want to believe that no one could be that evil. But just look around. Okay, I'm now gonna read the actual last paragraph of this article, because for some people it might just put all the pieces together as to what has been going on over the past 2 years. All in all, it is a good life. Much better than the path we were on, where it became so clear that we could not continue with the same model of growth. We had all these terrible things happening. Lifestyle diseases, climate change, the refugee crisis, environmental degradation, completely congested cities, water pollution, air pollution, social unrest and unemployment. We lost way too many people before we realised that we could do things differently. Okay, so when was this article written again? This article was written on November the 10th, 2016. Let that sink in a bit. We are actually reading this article 6 years later, and reading it right now, you would think that it was written maybe a few months ago, but no. This was written quite a few years ago. Almost like a prediction. What's weird is that, yes, all of these things were happening in 2016. However, all of this has been amplified to the extreme in the here and now. Now, I understand that there's some people that just won't understand the severity and the connections between all of these things. The fact is, I know a lot of people who are feeling quite bogged down by this situation. I know a lot of people that do the research, and a lot of people are at the point right now where they kind of look at this and they think, well, what are we gonna do about it? What can we do? I actually found this article to be quite liberating because towards the end it clearly outlines that these people know that there is going to be a certain large group of people that aren't going to accept this as their reality. They are not going to accept it, and I am one of them. And that is what I'm going to talk about in next week's video. So for anybody who is watching this and feels heavily discouraged by this information, or it's a shock to the system, let me just say this now. The truth will set you free. But first, it'll piss you off. The answer to happiness is not to bury your head in the sand and live in denial. And I know that a lot of my subscribers are not doing that, so I'm just saying. But some people are living in denial about this. The fact of the matter is that this is happening. It is real. However, that doesn't mean to say that these people's plan is gonna work. And in next week's video, I'm gonna give you guys all of my practical tips on what I am doing to ensure that my life goes the way that I want it to, how I am preparing to sever myself from society, how I'm able to cope with this information mentally, and you know I'm gonna drop some spiritual truths in that video too, because it's me. So yeah, comment down below your thoughts about this whole situation. I love to read your comments, especially about these subjects, because I actually learn a lot from you guys as well. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop me a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Love you, bye!